Hey guys, are you judgy? Would you like to stop being so judgy? In this episode of Coach Yaden, I'll go over how you can do that. First of all, like, subscribe, and comment. Jeez, people, every single week I have to remind ya. Okay, first of all, I'm going to clear something up. Judgy is not really a character trait. It is a response that people have on various subjects as they come up in life. So an example might be someone might be judgy around somebody wearing last year's fashion, but be totally okay with that person being mean to someone else. Like they don't really care about that. They care about the last year's fashion. Or someone could be really judgy about someone being a bad driver, but be totally okay with somebody making a bad bank investment, right? Or vice versa. Like, oh, that person's such an idiot for making a bad bank investment, but this person can, drive themselves right into a pole and they're like, it happens. You get what I'm saying? So if you find yourself judging a lot, it's not that you are judgy. It's more that you have parts of yourself that you find unacceptable that you have not dealt with yet, actually. And this is such a commonly said expression, like, oh, you gotta love yourself in order to not judge others, but it actually is true. I'm gonna tell you a story about this. Okay, I used to hate liars. Hate liars. I hated liars. You might be like, well, yeah, who doesn't hate liars? Everybody hates liars. No, I hated liars, like unreasonably so. So this, like, someone could lie about, okay, so we would have a meeting somewhere and they would be on their way and they'd say, oh, the traffic was bad. And then later I would come to find out that it wasn't the traffic, it was that they actually got in a car accident and they didn't want to burden all of us with all of that information. So they just said the traffic was bad and dealt with it on their own. I would then take that to mean that that person is untrustworthy and will present false information for ease and comfort and never trust them again and write them off as somebody who was untrustworthy. That's really judgy and not actually true. They were actually trying to do us a favor by not burdening us with their drama. Here's a situation that actually happened. I love bowling, so I'd be like, birthday party, bowling. My friend hates bowling, but she didn't want to ruin my birthday party by telling me that she hated bowling. So she said, yeah, I like bowling. And she came and she bowled. And then a couple of years later, she said, oh, I hate bowling, as an offhanded comment. And I said, but a couple of years ago, you told me you like bowling. And she was like, well, I just said that because I, didn't want to ruin your birthday. And I was like, you lied to me? So you lied to me about bowling. Okay, all right. So how am I supposed to trust your opinion again? I mean, if I knew that you didn't like bowling, I would have picked something else. I would have made sure that you had a good time. How do I trust you to tell me, be honest? Huh? I would even say things like, if you could lie about this, then how do I know you're not going to go and sleep with my husband, huh? And this was a girl. I was like, what if I marry a bisexual? So I was judgy. But the question is, why was I judgy? I'll tell you why I was judgy. You see, when I was in middle school, I had a unfortunate scenario. I made a list. I hated myself for being gay because I, was, we weren't allowed to be gay, in Korean Baptist church culture that I grew up in. I had no emotional support, really. I was also bullied for being fat, and I couldn't speak English all that well. So I figured that the only way I can get people to actually be my friend was if I presented them with a lie. So I told all people in middle school that I was very rich and that I lived in a very expensive home and that I also came from a lineage of royalty. And they all knew it was bullcrap because I would go shopping for clothes at Goodwill and forget to take the tag off. So then I would have like tag from Goodwill hanging on my t-shirts that were falling apart. And I was trying to convince them that I had a lot of money. Well, after a while of doing this, lying just doesn't work. And so I decided that I was never gonna lie again, ever, at all costs. And that part of me that lied, I made an enemy. I was like, I'm such an idiot for having lied. I'm such a stupid head. How could I? And I looked at my 12, 13-year-old self and that part of myself that lied as just a pathetic piece of crap. And because I was so ashamed of the fact that I used to lie, I never told anybody that I used to do that, actually. I never told my friends that I used to lie because as a man in my 30s, I thought that if they found out that I lied, then they would stop being my friend. So once I did some self-discovery work, I actually found that the best way to de-shame the process is sharing what actually happened and how I feel with people. It's a good way to de-shame. And so when I found that I had shame around lying in middle school, I started sharing with people that I did this, and no one gave a heck. Then I started thinking, I started having some compassion for myself. Hey, I lied because I was really desperate for a human connection, and I didn't see a way to get that. I was so ashamed of who I was at the time. I felt rejected by my family. I couldn't really speak the language. And so I guess I could understand why I could have lied at that time and showed some compassion for the younger me. So me, who used to judge so hard when someone lies, was not judgmental when this situation actually happened. There was a guy who wanted to get me in bed, and so he sold me some story about how he sold a show to Netflix and he wanted me to come on as a producer. I saw right through it, but but I could look at him and go, "You're a liar," and really judge him, but it doesn't bother me anymore. Like, he must be really sad. He must be really lonely. And he must feel really not good about himself if he has to fabricate this kind of lie in order to get me in bed. I mean, I know I'm a hot piece of, but still, I actually have compassion for that guy. I feel bad for him. I feel bad that he feels he has to lie to do that. And so I didn't confront him. I don't need to put any more energy into it. I'm going to let him figure it out. I'm backing away slowly. Here's another more extreme example of judgmental. I used to be judgmental of people who really embraced their sexuality. And at the base of that was, you know what? I was actually molested when I was 4 years old. And for so many years, I really did think it was my fault. I really, really did. I thought that I invited that somehow by being an overly sexual child that was broken. So along the way, I took that part of me that is sexual and locked him away in a room, never to be fed or cared for. And I thought there was something broken with me. And I hated that part of myself that was sexual, right? So whenever I would see someone being sexual out in the open, I would feel resentment because I hated that part of me. How could they be so free to do that? I made an enemy of myself. But once I realized maybe it's not my fault that I was molested at 4, and I started sharing that story with other people, first of all, it de-shamed the process again. And I told my closest friends, and they could not believe that I thought that that was my fault. And I was shocked. But then I thought, well, then maybe I don't need to hate myself so much. I can let that part of myself out and start to integrate that part of me so that we're all living in harmony and not make an enemy of a part of me that exists, right? If you look at my early work in stand-up comedy, there's no sex in it. There's no sexuality. I'm almost like an asexual caricature of what a gay man's supposed to be like. But as I'm starting to integrate that sexuality, I'm a different performer now. I got a lot of sex now. So, if you want to permanently solve the judgmentalness problem and it bothers you, it's a difficult process. What you need to do is you need to look inside and figure out what part of yourself you've made wrong or identified as a problem or identified as something that is broken or unacceptable, and figure out what that is. What was the trigger event for that? De-shame that event that triggered that emotional reaction by sharing with a few people that you trust, even if it's on a hotline or a therapist or something like that. And then you start to embrace that part back in. Because the part of myself that lied, it was just a part of me that really, really wanted to be loved. And it was a strategy that was misguided, but the intentions were good, okay? I did not invite molestation. I brought, so I don't deserve to have my sexuality locked out in the cold. I want to integrate that back in. Get what I'm saying? So I know it gets thrown out around a lot. When you are feeling judgy, it's just a reflection of how they feel about themselves. But it really is. But the solution is to not admonish yourself. The solution is to show compassion for yourself, show love for yourself, and then watch. Watch how much easier you feel in living in this world, and watch all the judgments you have about the world around you melt away. Okay? Guys, I love you. Have a great week.